Hey guys, Jim here. Wanted to do a bit of a follow-up with my Brad Southard Tarsus. Not really so much a long-term report, but more so just to show some of the things that have changed on it since I got it back from Brad. What I decided to do was reached out to Brad one day and said, "Hey, I kind of want to clean it up a little bit. It's got a few scratches here and there. I just kind of want to bring it back to new." And, just do a simple spot treatment. He's like, "Yeah, sure, send it back anytime you want, no problem at all." And that was an offer that he made when I very first bought it, because I did not buy it directly from him. I bought it from another collector who had used it. And he's like, "Hey, whenever you get that knife, if you like it, if you want to do a spot treatment, just let me know and I'll hook you up." So pretty much every day that I carried it, I thought about that, but more so because I really wanted to see it a little bit different. I wanted to change the finish on it a little bit. If you guys recall, this was all a deep bronze on all of the titanium, which would have been the liners, the pocket clip, and the bolsters. And I always felt that the natural look of titanium, that silverish gray color, would enhance the look of the scales even more. It would bring out the silver that's in there, and it would really complement the blue a lot better than the bronze would. But it's a tricky thing when you go to someone who's created something as great as this, or really has created anything, any kind of artist mind, to go back to them and go, "Hey, listen, I really like this thing that you made with your heart and your hands. Can you change it?" It's a little hard to do that. And it wasn't that I didn't like it the way it was. You guys know that I love the knife. But I just saw it in my mind a little bit differently. And since I knew there was not a chance of me getting another one, only 7 of these exist, and I'm certainly not going to be able to get Brad to make me one, I figured my only way to do it that way was to maybe have Brad refinish it. And I was surprised when he was totally fine with the idea, and he agreed. He says, "You know what?" He goes, "I honestly think that that more silvery look to the knife is going to look better with the scales. So yeah, let me go ahead and do that for you." But he ended up doing a few things that I wasn't expecting as well. When we discussed it, it was just going to be, strip off the bronze anodizing, bring it back to its natural finish, and then put a new edge on the blade because it was just a little bit dull. And he did a great job on that. Now it's wonderfully sharp, cuts very, very, very well. But one of the things that he did when he got it back, he sent me a text message. He's like, he goes, "How do you like the action on it?" I'm like, "Oh, the action's fine. I think it's great." He's like, "Well, I know that you like a harder detent, so I went ahead and played with the detent a little bit." I'm like, "Oh, that's great. Thank you." Because I really do. I prefer a much stronger detent on my knives these days. And like I said, it already had a good action, but it was a little soft. But once you got used to it, it was fine. Because Brad does good actions in all of his knives. Well, not only did he tune the detent, he replaced the detent ball. And what he did was he put a ceramic detent ball in there. He replaced the bearings. I don't recall. I think he said he replaced the bearings with ceramic bearings, but I don't want to say that for certain because I honestly don't remember. But I can tell you this. While the action was really good before, it is infinitely better now. And it's wonderfully smooth. It's a really light blade, so it doesn't really want to drop under its own weight, but it's very, very smooth. And it's snappier. So much snappier than it was. So, before I always had to kind of push button it just a little bit, but now I can very simply rock back on it, light switch it, and it's got just enough detent that it allows it to pop out nicely. He did a quick refinish on the whole knife, so basically it's 100% brand new at this point. Looks beautiful. We were talking about refinishing the blade, or I should say I was talking about refinishing the blade. I said, "Hey, would you mind throwing a quick satin on there?" And he says, "Dude, that's S90V. I am not going to even attempt doing a satin on there." I'm like, "Oh shit," because I keep forgetting, and he did etch it on the inside of the backspacer here. I do keep forgetting that it's S90 for some reason, which I love the steel. It's such a great steel. But it does present problems if you want to do custom finishing. So I'm perfectly happy with the way it came out. I love this look, and he did a new process on this, It's kind of like a bead blast, but he did something special with it. I have a hard time remembering exactly what he said. Unfortunately, I deleted all of our older text messages because it was just getting to be a little bit too long and taking up room in my phone. But he did a beautiful, beautiful finish on here. It's not quite a satin. It's not quite an eggshell. It's such a fine finish. It's really hard to put your finger on it. But it is absolutely beautiful. And I think also being this more silvery color, I think it helps the pivot ring in zirconium pop a little bit more too. Not that it really disappeared against the bronze, but I think it definitely pops a little bit more. Same thing on this side. What a beautiful, smooth, rich looking finish. And then of course you see the scales as they were. Pocket clip refinished as well. I love this pocket clip. It works so perfectly. So I just wanted to kind of give an update and talk about Brad's exemplary customer service. He just did such a great job, and he threw in the extras in there as a surprise and just went, hey, I think that I can make this knife even better by, smoothing up the action and changing out the detent for you, all things that he did not need to do, obviously. And with as busy as his schedule is, it really is refreshing to see him, take that kind of time out just to make sure that a customer that was already happy with his work was even happier. And yeah, I honestly think that this new look, as much as I liked it before, I like it so much more now. I think it is a tremendous looking knife. It is absolutely one of my hands down favorites in my collection, something that will most likely never leave my collection. Unless, I don't know, I need to draw up a whole shitload of money to buy, a rocket ship or something. I have no practical need to ever sell it or trade it or get rid of it. When I first got it, I was a little bit skeptical about the size because you guys know I don't really like the really, really small knives anymore. I'm typically 3.5 to 3.75 inch blades. That's my sweet spot. And this is about 3¼ inches. So it's a lot smaller than what I'm used to carrying these days. But I got to tell you, after the first day or two of having it, which, I had made the initial review video the day I got it, and I was kind of unsure about it in the video. After having it for a day or two, I was sold. And once you carry it, it's so slim and it's so lightweight and so easy to carry, yet it feels so much more like a real tool in the hand. I found that it had a lot more practical uses than I would have ever expected. So while my next Southard is going to be a larger knife, whenever that may be, it could be, 5 years from now, and I'm totally fine with that. I really have grown to appreciate this size knife now. And as a result of that, I actually have added a couple of smaller knives to my collection in the past 6 months, because now I do have that appreciation for it. And there are times where I just don't want to carry a larger knife, especially if I'm like wearing lightweight shorts or something like that. I want something slim and lightweight. I don't really ever leave the house with my mind that I'm going to have really hard cutting chores for that day. So, there's not always a reason to carry a big giant tank in my pocket anyway. You just prefer what you prefer for whatever reasons. And I always gravitate toward a slightly larger knife. But this knife, I've never ever carried it and had to pull it out to use it for something and went, geez, I wish I had a bigger knife on me. And that tells me right there that I was being a little bit closed-minded, and we're all going to go through phases, and that's fine. But I was being a little bit closed-minded on my size perspectives when it comes to a daily carry EDC knife. So I think it really is about the performance of the knife. If this had a really gritty action, or it didn't flip for shit, or, other things weren't as perfect as this is, it might not have changed my mind as much. But when you own a Southard, there is a particular level of perfection that you're going to expect. And when you're able to handle one of his knives, I don't care what size it is, you're going to fall in love with it, period. And I'm really glad that I was able to get this knife. I'm really glad that I've had a chance to bond with it before I made any decisions about it, because I got to tell you, There are so many days that I just reach for this without even thinking. I don't even look at some of my other knives. I just grab this, or I may even be in the mood to carry a different knife, and I'll open up my display case, and I'll see this, and I'll go, shit, well, now the decision's a lot harder. And I will actually sit there and flip a couple of knives back and forth, and I'll still end up going back to my Tarsus and carry it. I love the blade shape. I love the way that it feels in the hand. I love the compact size. I love how lightweight it is. And you guys know I do tend to favor a bolster lock. You know, I love the solidity and the feel of a frame lock. But sometimes, you know, when you get a beautiful knife on the presentation side and then you've got a frame lock, you lose some of that on the lock side. So I like having a bolster lock because I have the same exact feel of a frame lock, but I can carry over the beauty to the other side of the knife. And a knife like this, I think it would look fine as a frame lock, but I really think that the scale work that he did truly enhances the look of this knife. So to have it on both sides, I think is a major aesthetical benefit. So anyway, I just wanted to give a quick update, not going to make it a long, drawn-out video. Like I said, Brad, I could not be happier. You know that. I've told you that since it came back. But, you know, anybody that has ever looked at a knife, no matter who made it, and you're looking at it going, you know, I really like this knife, but if only one or two things were slightly different, especially something as minor as finish work, you know, don't be afraid to talk to that maker, because I got to tell you, there was a lot of trepidation for me before I finally told Brad, hey, I'd like to change the way it looks. I'm sure there are going to be artists that might be offended. You know, they might go, well, no, I built this for a certain reason, have a certain finish, and that was in my mind's eye, and that's the way it is. And to change that would, you know, really be a slap in the face. I totally get that, and that's what I was afraid of with Brad. You know, but he's a really open-minded dude, and I would have to think that a lot of other makers would think along the same lines. Hey, I made this, you know, so many months ago or so many years ago, and I was in this frame of mind, I was in this groove, and maybe they've changed a little bit over that time, and they'd be curious to see how it would look if it was a little bit different as well. I would never take a knife like this and send it to another maker or a knife modifier to have those modifications done. If Brad would have said, no, I made each of these knives to be specific and unique in their own rights, and I'm not going to change it, I would have respected that and kept it and loved it just the way it was. But thankfully, he was very, very cool about that. I wouldn't have wanted to take this and send it to somebody and have them do any work to it, because then I think not only would it obviously devalue it, but that to me seems like more of a slap in the face, you know? And there are plenty of times that that's fine. I mean, like, you know, a lot of guys bought like Curtis F3s and sent them over to Chris Martin at Phantom Steelworks and had really cool murder jobs and stuff done to them. And I think that's fine. Number one, you know, Dave and Chris are friends, so that's, you know, certainly not going to be an issue. There's no friction there. But it's not the kind of thing at the time where a lot of people could just call up Dave and go, hey, I've got an F3 and I love it. Can I send it back to you and have this done and have that done and have that done? Because for a while there, that was not an option. Now it is. Now you can send things back to him and go, hey, I want you to carve this up and I want you to do a blue anno fade and this kind of stuff, because he is offering that service now. But a lot of times makers just don't have the time to do that shit. They make the knife, it's done, it's out the door, it's on to the next thing. So to call them up and say, hey, anything beyond a spot treatment or a repair, hey, you know what, I want to carve the heartbeat line in here, and then I want you to black DLC the blade, then I want you to add a swedge, and you know, then I want you to put a Timascus clip on there. They might look at it and go, listen, I just don't have time for that kind of shit, and I don't want to change the design that I did because I did it for a certain reason. So I think there are definitely going to be reasons to go to a knife modifier. I always look at that more as an option for a production or a mid-tech knife, however. I don't know, I just don't want to send a custom knife to somebody other than the maker who birthed it. So that made me feel really good to be able to get it done by the man who actually built the knife. It keeps the pedigree pure, I believe. And you know the work is going to be done right. He's not going to trash his own work. There aren't going to be mistakes made. This is a flawless example of what Brad does so well. Everything is seamless and beautiful, and I'm still in awe over the pivot. I look at that pivot collar and the pivot and the cutout in the bolster, and the tolerances are so tight you almost don't see well, there is no room for error, but you almost don't see a seam. It's just perfect. And that's why you seek out a Southard. That's why you buy a Southard. Unless you're just a name chaser. If you're just buying for a status knife, well, that's fine. I mean, obviously you're gonna be getting a high status knife. But for me, it's about the level of workmanship that he puts into every one of his knives. When you buy a Southard, this is what you expect. And damn if he didn't knock it out of the ballpark twice on one knife. Anyway, guys, I'm going to cut it off here. It did run longer than I expected, but it's a special knife. There's lots of shit to talk about. So yeah, the action is incredible. I think the finish is incredible. A lot of people may say, well, I preferred it the way it was before. That's fine. But I think this really, the color tone now matches the theme, and it really accentuates the scale work that he did on this. So this is one that's going to live forever in my collection and get plenty and plenty of use. I'm sure it's going to go back for a spa treatment in 3 or 4 years because I'm going to, bang it up. I really don't have any marks on it from the carry that I've done in the past month or so that I've had it back, but that also could be attributed to this finish. It may not show wear quite as easily. So, all right, guys, I'm going to end it here. I got some more videos to do. Thank you guys for watching as always, and I'll see you on the next one.